Hey guys, welcome back to the garage. This is going to be part two of the cam series where we're going to be building the motor back up, putting the new cam in. But first we got to correct the mistake we made last weekend when I damaged the oil pan seal. And now basically I got to drop the cradle, hold the engine up in position, lower the cradle down enough to pull the oil pan out, and then put the new oil pan gasket on, and then put everything back together with that, and then we could start with the install of the cam. So that's going to set us back a little bit. We got to correct this issue from the damage we did pulling the oil pump off, but hey, that's sometimes how these projects go. Just wanted to give you guys an update as we're working on the front cradle here. So I have the suspension arms all disconnected. Basically 2 bolts down here at the bottom of the shock, and then the 4 bolts up here that hold that upper control arm against the frame. And one thing to keep in mind is that there are spacers, washers that keep the alignment, the offset and everything like that, so that's dialed in from the factory. We want to make sure all that goes back together. So I just numbered them front to back in sequence, and then made sure to put the washer stack right back on it. We have the oil pan out. Here it is. These stock oil pans have rivets on them holding the gasket in place. I think it's just 2 spots, yeah, here and there. So we have to drill out the rivet, remove the old gasket, clean up the surfaces, both on the engine block and then this pan here, and then put the new one on. I'm probably going to tack it with some RTV because you're not supposed to re-rivet them according to the service manual. So we'll just put it on with a little RTV just to hold it in place. The clearance is really tight. I had to shimmy the engine hoist all the way forward to get as much forward lift on the engine block as I could without making the car too light. It's a little teetery on the lift right now. And then I had to actually take a block of wood to pry up on the end of the crankshaft just to get the last little bit of lift out of there. So I have the cradle dropped as low as it can go with the nut still on, and then hopefully you can see the engine mount bolts are pretty much just flush. So that's how much I had to drop it just to get the pan out, and it was extremely tight. Here's our 8 p.m. temperature and humidity update in the garage. We're at 69% humidity, 86 degrees. Alright, we're going to take a quick meal break. I haven't eaten since lunchtime. It's a little past 8 right now. Alright, so we got the surfaces prepped. See, everything's all nice and clean where the pan's going to bolt up to. So we're ready to slip the pan in. I'm going to leave it loose below everything. and we're going to get the oil pump and the timing set and all that lined up, the new cam in there, and then once that's in, then we'll bolt the oil pan up from the bottom, so that way we don't worry about disturbing the seal here. So this is the new timing set I got. Well, actually just timing chain. It's a K-Tech C5R. It's like the performance GM chain. So when I pulled this timing set off, this had a bunch of play in it. So I don't know if the chain stretched or what happened. The car's got about 22,000 miles on it. I've already got everything apart, so I didn't really want to take the risk. I figured with the extra load on the valve train, with the dual springs, the high lift cam, everything like that, it's a good idea to go ahead and replace this timing chain. I think the stock GM one should be fine. Like, you really shouldn't have to do this, but I noticed that there was some slap in it, so I just figured I better go ahead and proactively change it. Just make sure the valve train's bulletproof while we build this motor back up. So I got this new one. I soaked the baggie in new motor oil, and we're ready to go ahead and put that one on. Time and temperature check. We're at 10 p.m., 86 degrees, 67% humidity. So it's a little hot out there to be doing my reading, so I come in here, do my torque checks and everything like that. So I'll show you what I mean about the oil pump. So you'll see here, install the oil pump bolts, but do not tighten at this time. And you'll see in this picture here, they got a plate that actually bolts to the bottom of the block, and that's what you set the pump down on for clearance. So you'll see here again, that's the same depiction. And there it is for under the timing cover. So what we're going to do, instead of that special tool, obviously, because we're doing this all in the car, is we're going to slide the oil pump on, which we did, put the bolts in loose, and then I'm going to tighten the pan from underneath, and that's going to set that height there for this. So hopefully that will work. We won't have any leaks. Really wouldn't want to take this all apart again. So hopefully you can see. Try and get you in close here. And so originally what I was going to do is just bolt the pan up tight and then tighten the bolts in the oil pan to kind of set that gap clearance for the seal. But what I decided on now is, because I want to have proper crush on my gasket there when I squeeze that pan up tight, is I'm going to just snug up the pan, get the bolts, snug, and then what I'm going to do is torque down the oil pump to set the height there, and then I'll crush the gasket by finishing torquing the oil pan up, so that way it seals against the oil pump ports there. So right now we're working on seating the harmonic balancer, and as you can see here, we're using the old balancer bolt, which we're going to torque down to 240, and we're also going to check this distance here between the edge of the crankshaft and the balancer with a micrometer, And as long as our depth is within that range, that means the balancer is seated properly. It's the right clearance. And then we can go ahead and install our new balancer bolt, which is torqued to 37 foot-pounds and then another 230 degrees. Alright, so we got 0.130. So that means we're within range here. We're less than 0.176 and greater than 0.094. Alright, now that we got the initial torque, we still got to go 230 degrees from the 37 foot-pound mark. So I'm going to mark the initial start position here with a paint pen, and then we're going to basically rotate the bolt around another 230 degrees, and that will be the final torque. Hey guys, just here to give you an update, show you the progress where we're at right now. Some of the stuff I really couldn't film doing this all by myself, and even setting up on the tripod, just trying to move the camera every time you want to move a piece of equipment or whatever. It's kind of tedious, so I'm just going to kind of give you an update of where we're at and what I got done so far. So right now, the steering rack is in, it's all hooked up. Everything's bolted back in. The power steering cooler is in. The ABS module is back on its mount. I got the water pump bolted down and torqued. And pretty much now we're ready to put the radiator assembly back in and then plumb all the connections for that. Hey guys, just want to bring you a lunchtime update. Get ready to take a break, go get something to eat for lunch. But here we are. So we got the bumper back on. Everything looks good with that. And radiator assembly, everything here is all buttoned up. The top shroud is on. Pretty much the front of the motor is dressed up. I got to put the serpentine belt on still. And I gotta run out to AutoZone and pick up some plastic scrapers to clean the deck surface on the block, and then we'll pretty much be prepping the cylinder heads for install. So I still gotta do the lifters and the trays and clean all this up and then prep the cylinder heads for install.